Hey, I'd like to formally announce that this is our second straight video shitting on an anime and or manga, breaking our previous streak of one. Hopefully you enjoy barely edited slop over some generic gameplay that no one cares for, with a side of bare minimum for the thumbnail, because YouTube does not have enough of that. The reason for this is because I have been on a massive time crunch before I traveled to Japan for 3 weeks, and this is the best that I can come up with on such short time. I've also been away for months, regaining some of the mental health that I lost in my last college semester. Here's a tip for all the youngins out there. Doing your entire graduation thesis in a week and a half instead of the allotted 6 months you were given is a slightly less than optimal idea. After going through an entire computer science program in college, here's a little review of the whole thing in case you're wondering whether or not you should attend college at all. It's a scam. And I say that as someone who didn't even pay for it, but I was scammed out of my time and my hairline. With that out of the way, let's jump into the actual main topic of the video. Have you ever thought about the concept of disappointment? The Cambridge Dictionary defines it as being something or someone that is not what you were hoping it would be. My mom defines it as me, but the real definition of the word has just been updated in the newest patch, courtesy of Cyclone Graphics. Wandance. One of the best manga to come out in recent years, it covers a story of Kotani Kaboku as he discovers a passion for dancing through Wanda Hikari after watching her dance her heart out with no inhibitions. Kaboku, who is used to just going with the flow and matching everyone else's pace, holding back on expressing himself, sets out on a journey in order to learn how to convey his true self through dancing. Wandance is truly one of my favorite mangas, enveloping everything from self-growth, anxiety, romance, and friendship, along with some of the most amazing, dynamic, and expressive art you can get, courtesy of its creator, Coffee. I was really excited to find out that 6 years after it started its publication, Wandance would finally get an anime adaptation by none other than Madhouse, the studio that brought to life some of the very best anime in existence in the form of Frieren, Hunter vs. Hunter, Monster, Death Note, Nana, One Outs, and my favorite anime of all time, the Tatami Galaxy. The list goes on and on. In Death Parade, yes, and Black Lagoon, and Beck. Okay, now I'm really done. The point is, Madhouse is one of the most decorated anime studios of all time. So when I learned that they were the ones responsible for adapting such an amazing work, I thought, hey, there is no way that they can fuck this up. It's like letting Steph Curry take the final shot at the game. It's like asking Cristiano Ronaldo to take the last penalty in the shootout. It's like leaving the final report in your experimental physics 1 class to the furry-loving autistic kid that just happened to be assigned to your group, but then you find out they actually have the good kind of autism, where they're actually intellectually gifted, but instead of just writing in their part and turning in the assignment, he or she or they or whatever the fuck spend the day of the deadline writing a fanfic of Sonic getting impregnated by a furry version of Kratos from God of War, instead of just doing the fucking thing that they said they were gonna do. Nate, if you're watching this video, I'll never forgive you, mother. Remember how I talked about the meaning of the word disappointment? I'll start off by showing you a couple of frames from the Wandance manga, and then proceeding to show you a short clip of how that exact part of the manga was adapted into the anime. I mean, my favorite part about this is how her hair just looks like someone took like a pet bottle and cut it up in order to make it look like an octopus, you know how you do as a kid, and place it on her bald ass head without her noticing. She just went out and danced like that. Here's the thing. Animation is hard. Take it from someone who once spent an entire afternoon trying to animate stick figures using Pivot Animator when they were 9. But this shit is rough, to say the least. I mean, this shocked me like I was a dog being used as a prop in a streamer's background. There are fan-made MMD animations out there that look several orders of magnitude better than this. This looks like my paralysis demon when I go to sleep after downing 7 Bud Lights. I once did a video on the first official AI-generated full-length anime, and I thought I wouldn't see anything worse. This is worse. And the thing is, the company responsible for the CG isn't some no-name first-year graphic design student, it's Cyclone Graphics. They've actually done work on Last Exile Fam of the Silver Wing, and even in the second season of Monogatari series. And they did pretty great, especially in the case of Last Exile, considering that they were doing CG of this quality 14 years ago. The question now really becomes, why even go with full CG in the first place? Lack of budget? Time? Both? Good dance animation isn't something that demands hardcore CG, and we've seen an example of this with something like Dance Dance Danseur or Welcome to the Ballroom, which came out 8 years ago. In all fairness, however, the type of dancing in those works is not as dynamic as the dancing displayed in Wandance, and therefore focus less on the actual complexity of the animation and more on its direction, which I feel like wouldn't be a good way to handle this particular case, because with things such as breakdancing, which Wandance has a lot of, I would much rather see shots fully encompassing the character rather than close-up shots like they did in Welcome to the Ballroom. Ultimately, the gap in the animation between regular scenes and dance scenes just completely breaks any sort of immersion and consistency, which is a shame because behind the 3D models you actually have very, very talented and well-known dancers. You know, this whole thing reminds me of when the Junji Ito collection came out in 2018, and everyone was skeptical of how good it would be considering the devotion and detail in the original work, just for it to come out and surprise nobody by demonstrating that it actually truly was shit. Then Uzumaki came out last year after being god knows how long in the oven, and it had a pretty amazing first episode with actually very appealing rotoscoped animation, just to then disappoint in the following 2 episodes, and then up the level a little bit in the 4th and last episode. The difference here is that this disappoints right from the get-go. Right from episode 1. The contrast between the regular animation done by Madhouse and whatever the fuck was done by Cyclone Graphics is just oppressively blatant. Like, you'll be watching it, getting completely lost in Wanda's beauty, and then literally the next frame you're looking at something that looks like it was conceived inside of the Vatican's chronovisor. The one thing that I do find very interesting though is the difference in reaction and criticism when it comes to Japanese fans and Western fans. You know, sometimes a manga is so bad that the entire world unites in pulling down our collective pants and shitting on it. It's the case of the last video, in case you missed it, where I talked about how the Rent-A-Girlfriend manga is so retarded that even the Japanese fans got pissed off. But surprisingly, with Wandance, the reactions were pretty mixed, with most people giving it a chance purely for the story, while mentioning the lackluster usage of CG. And so just to illustrate my point, I took some comments from a website called K-Ani, which I like very much. It's a website where you can basically see people's overall opinions on a specific anime. And so for Wandance, you had people saying things like, as a big fan of the original work, I always figured that transforming it into anime would be difficult. The 3D CG used in the dance parts for 2025 seemed pretty lackluster, and also Wanda's visual and voice really didn't match the image that I had in my mind. The quality of the CG is very low. As expected, the very finely detailed movements in the original art just give out a weird feeling when transformed into CG. Also, I don't know if this is common nowadays, but I really wanted the opening of this anime to have some amazing dancing, but the opening doesn't have any dancing at all. The 3D CG is basically the only part that was a waste. But I loved Kabuku's voice and Wanda, and so I'm going to continue this. This is the opinion of someone who bought every single one of the volumes up until now. The movements and the dancing aren't particularly bad, but I can see why people are so concerned and upset about the lack of emotions in the CG. People who watch this only because of the artist that did the opening song are probably going to be thinking, wait, their music isn't being used at all other than in the opening. With this type of production, it's really hard to demonstrate the impact that the original work has. The quality of the art is pretty high, and the storyline about taking up dancing demonstrates this feeling of youth. However, there was quite a gap between the 3D used in the dance scenes and the regular art, and because of that, it was kind of hard to concentrate. It would have probably been better if they just invested more money and made that weird feeling go away. All of this dancing that was supposed to be the selling point used excessive amounts of 3D CG and just seemed extremely mechanical. It really made me wish for something more expressive, like for example Welcome to the Ballroom. I'll wait for the second episode to decide whether or not I'm going to continue this. Like I was really hyped up for this, but it just felt eh. I'm not joking, by the way. This is how this person wrote this comment. particularly the CG and the dance scenes just seemed weird. It's impressive that they actually cast people to do mocap for the dancing, but at the end of the day, the crucial and essential part just ended up being this. Was this made with one specific fan in mind? To be honest, as someone who just likes anime, the 3D was just kind of hard to watch. I'm really interested in the story though, so I'm still kind of on the fence on whether or not I'm going to continue watching. Not even 1 millimeter of the quality of the original work comes out of this. Putting on a sly face and putting out some 3D CG of this quality, what the hell were you thinking? I can't really expect anything anymore out of these dance scenes. I mean, even though that was the main point of the original work, and there were a lot of comments, honestly, that did not really include an opinion on the 3D CG at all, and just talked about how the story was pretty good, and they were just going to continue watching, because let's be honest, not everyone cares for this type of detail. But overall, I do have to agree that I also thought that this would be a pretty hard type of work to adapt into an anime properly, honestly, just because the fine details in the art in the manga is just overwhelming. And so I tend to mostly agree with these comments in the sense that I knew they weren't going to put out something that could even compare to the manga, but holy fuck, I did not expect something like this. Now, with all of that being said though, am I going to watch this adaptation till the end? I absolutely will try. I'll try. You know, I'm actually very good with commitment. My mandatory skincare routine that I have to do, otherwise I get rashes, is already on its 3rd consecutive day. I mean, CG of this level is like performing open heart surgery on a child, or parallel parking. It's the thought that counts. It's not bad enough to the point that it turns me off entirely from the anime, but it is, however, bad enough to officially make this a missed opportunity. A shame. I would have been way more comfortable with blander, simpler animations done in 2D than with this, because believe it or not, the story by itself is already more than good enough even without the dancing. It's also worth noting that this is all my opinion as someone who isn't particularly well versed in animation or what goes in making it. I say that because I believe that is the case for most people, and the thing is, when it comes to a finalized product, the end consumer just doesn't give a shit. If you have ever worked in consulting or any type of job where you need to present a product to a client, you probably already realized it, but the end consumer doesn't want to know why you didn't manage to provide them the product exactly as they demanded. The end consumer doesn't care why their pizza delivery guy is late. They just want their goddamn pepperoni pizza. Obviously, this is a generalization, but the point is, no matter the reasoning behind this 3D CG Miku Miku dance bullshit, the average everyday viewer is just not gonna care. All they want is a good animation that perhaps doesn't necessarily live up to the original work 100%, but is pleasurable enough to look at and doesn't turn them off from watching. And that's gonna do it for this one. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Honestly, even with all of this criticism, I still highly recommend that you read the Wandance manga. It is truly amazing. You know, if you're the sort of person who enjoys stories about coming to terms with yourself, overcoming challenges on how to express yourself, and finding your true passion, then I highly recommend Wandance. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you did not enjoy the video, leave a dislike. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.